everything crown. Who could have supposed I should meet you in town and whence such fair garments, such prosperity?
Oh, didn't you know I'd been ruined?
Said she.
You left us in tatters, without shoes or socks, tired of digging potatoes and spudding up docks. And now you've gay braces and bright feathers 3.
Yes. That's how we dress when we're ruined.
Said she.
At home in the Barton you said thee and thou and thickoon and dearsoon and t'other. But now you're talking quite fitsy for eye company.
Some polish is gained with one's ruin.
Said she.
Your hands are like paws then. Your face blue and bleak. But now I'm bewitched by your delicate cheek. And your little gloves fit as on any lady.
We never do work when we're ruined.
Said she.
You used to call home life a hag-ridden dream. You'd sigh and you'd sock. But at present you seem to know not of megrims or melancholy.
True. One's pretty lively when one's ruined.
Said she.
I wish I had feathers. A fine sweeping gown. And a delicate face and could strut about town.
My dear, a raw country girl such as you be cannot quite expect that. You ain't ruined.
Said she. This is a very early Hardy poem, and he's clearly looking at this theme of the fallen woman through quite a comic lens. But we know that years later he'll pick it up and look at it through the lens of Tess of the D'Urbervilles, which is a great tragic novel, a novel full of murder and real loss of innocence, a novel that explores all the consequences which are just being hinted at in this piece.
You've got this wonderful situation of 2 people coming from the same place, but one has suddenly got airs and graces. She's suddenly more refined and more privileged in many ways than the other person.
Some polish is gained with one's ruin.
The person coming from the same place knows that the only way she could have got there is basically by selling her body.
As far as the country maiden can see, the woman in town has been entirely brought up in the world. She is made grander, more beautiful, more comfortable. She speaks better. She appears to be healthier almost. So the notion of being ruined is filled with a very jagged irony. It's a very paradoxical idea.
To be called ruined at that time would be to suggest that morally you were sort of beyond the pale, that you were an outcast of society, is a very judgmental word. And yet, because she's become this rich man's mistress and been called ruined, she can only see the positives of her situation.
Falling and being ruined in Victorian society was a very, very dramatic thing. And you could never go back. In a sense. And, of course, Hardy's novels are full of people who have fallen and in many ways try to kind of escape from the place where they've been shamed or they've fallen. And they never can. Fate always catches them. Hardy is a poet and a novelist who talks extensively about fate, the idea that, we're almost predestined, that in a sense that we're doomed before we begin. And this is one of those wonderful poems where he doesn't let his fatalism overcome the joy of the poem.
Wish I had feathers. A fine sweeping gown. And a delicate face and could strut about town.
What's interesting about the unruined girl is that she both is critical and envious at the same time. She would like the feathers and the gowns and the definite rise in prosperity, but she's afraid of it.
She seems to be quite judgmental, and there's definitely a sort of irony and a hardness when she talks about her strutting about town, and particularly when she talks about being bewitched by her delicate cheek. The connotations of witchcraft are quite unpleasant and suggest, macabre undertones to her finery. Yet at the same time, her descriptions of their life before, of her being with hands like paws and her face blue and bleak, it's an incredibly brutal portrayal of what life was for working women in those days, almost animal and ill and very desperate. digging up potatoes without shoes and socks on. And I think this is partly Hardy's sort of pessimism creeping through. It doesn't really seem like either of the options are very good. The choices he lays out for working women are very bleak, ultimately, even though it's told in a comic way.
My dear, a raw country girl such as you be cannot quite expect that. You ain't ruined,
said she.